Welcome everyone to Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm the Raw Dog, and this is what we do here at Raw Dog Game Reviews. I'm going to review a game I recently played. But here's the catch. There's no script and no editing. I'm just going to ramble on my review for the game, off the top of my head, off the cuff if you will. Now that that's out of the way, let's get to it, and let's go in Raw Dog. Okay everyone, here it is. This is what we've all been waiting for. Well, it's what I've been waiting for. I'm not really sure if you've all been waiting for it, but I've been waiting for it. This is when we're talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And woo-wee boy, this game is amazing. Just utterly amazing. Definitely one of the best games I've ever played, period. Just blows me away in every single way. It's just glorious. Now, if you watched my video on Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core, which also included a bit of a remakes review, then you already know I love Final Fantasy VII. I was basically raised by Final Fantasy VII. I was taught life values by Final Fantasy VII. So, yes, this game means a lot to me. It's part of my life, not part of my childhood, part of my life. I love this game. So, when they finally decided to remake it, and I couldn't contain myself. I was just like, yes, give it to me. Take my money. I don't care how much money you need. I will fund this thing. Take it. I want this game. So, I was not angry at all that they released the first game as just Midgar, because honestly, I think it's fine. I think when you go the first time blind through Midgar, it would take you like 10 hours, maybe more, because you're blind. You don't have a guide. You're just going through Midgar. It's big. It's a place. It's a big city to find and do a lot of things. A lot of the game happens in there. But they made it even bigger and even more expansive. Even gave you even more things to do in the remake. It was beautiful, and of course, obviously, it just looks beautiful. So when I knew that finally we're getting Rebirth, and I was thinking like, well, what are they going to do for Rebirth? Because now we're going to travel all over the continent. And how far are we going to get? Are we going to make it to, spoilers. There are definitely 100% going to be spoilers in this video. Because I'm going to talk about the ending at some point. I'm not sure when. This is going to be a big video. But I'm going to talk about that ending because that was beautiful. Anyway, so yes. How far are we going to get in Rebirth? Are we going to get to the death scene? Are we going to see Aerith die again? Like, how far is this going to go? Everything was up in the air and it was beautiful. Man. Okay. So, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is amazing. But it's not without its caveats. There are a few things that I find annoying. There are a few things that bother me. But I would still say overall it's an amazing game. And I loved it. And I want to platinum it. I don't platinum a lot of games. I'm not a completionist like that, but I do make it my purpose to platinum some games that mean a lot to me, or some games that have a relatively easy platinum. Rebirth is not one of them. It's not one of the ones that has an easy platinum, so I'm not going to platinum it for easy reasons. I want to try because it means a lot to me, but that platinum is difficult because of the mini games. There are so many mini games. Honestly, it got frustrating. I didn't like it. It pissed me off. So we'll come back to that later. But let's go ahead and dive right into the actual review now that I've given a nice interlude to how much I loved Rebirth. Because I could go on and on about Rebirth forever. I could go on and on about 7 forever. So let's just dive into the actual review here and let's get started. So, graphics. What more can I say than this game just looks beautiful? It just looks beautiful. The world, the people, everything just looks so good, so clean, so crisp. It just looks good. It's amazing. It truly showcases the power that we have these days for games and what we can do with that power in games. It's baffling. I mean, the water physics, the world itself, how vibrant the world looks, how real the world looks, how the grass moves, how the hair moves, how the people function in the world. Like, how the whole world just flows around you, how it actually managed to give you an open world map while still making it feel like an actual JRPG world map. The world just looks so good. So, I just don't know where else to go from there. But I do have one thing to say. I've noticed, I think the next big step for games is beds. That probably sounds ridiculous, but beds. I mean, for the longest time, it was hair, and then I think it was water, or maybe it was water then hair, but now it's beds. We've gotten hair to look really good. We've gotten water to look really good. But now I think beds need to look good. Beds, just seriously, beds are the next highlight. They need to look good. They need to actually function. It bothers me. It bothers me on a whole big level. So even though this game's graphics are just mind-blowing, the beds are still just a piece of cardboard. The bed is just a thing, a model the characters lay on top of. It doesn't function with them. You can see it in the game when Cloud goes take a nap on the bed, or I don't know, when Aerith takes a nap, when Tifa takes a nap, when anybody takes a nap on the bed, you can see they're just laying on the bed. And if they needed a blanket, they have a weird, awkward little black blanket on top of them. The bed has a blanket, mind you. The bed model has a blanket all of its own, but they're not using it because it's a part of the model. They can't use it. The bed doesn't actually function as a real bed. It's just a chair model for them to sit on or for them to lay on. So I think the graphics are beautiful and amazing, but beds are the next big step. When we can make beds look real, function like real, that's cool. That'll be the next big step in gaming, at least in my opinion. Anyway, or at least the next big step in gaming graphics. But anyway, or maybe that's functionality. I don't know, but I think it's graphics because the bed just looks like cardboard. It doesn't look real. The models just lay on top of what will be the blankets, and it doesn't look like a bed. Anyway, but the rest of the game looks glorious, and the way that it transitions, the graphics just hold up beautifully. But there is another one. The graphics fail when you're driving the tiny Bronco in the ocean. When you're going around the ocean, when you go to the next area and the clouds will cover up and become dark, you can see the outlines of the clouds digitally turn into darkness. Not it becomes night or it becomes darker because there's too much cloud cover. No, you can just see the outset of the world digitally become darker. And if you go to the edge of the map, you can see the digital lines in the world. So there's a little bit of breakage in there, but the graphics overall look beautiful. I'm not gonna attack that point. I'm gonna point that out for other people, but I'm not gonna attack it because the graphics look beautiful. And that you have to find those things, you have to really look with a magnifying glass. I mean, I basically had to, which I wasn't even trying to find them, but because I just love this game so much, I was exploring and I happened to find them. So it's not really a big deal. The game does definitely just look beautiful. So, next thing to go into is the story, because I want to save gameplay for later, and gameplay's gonna have a lot of things like the mini games in it and all this stuff. So, story. So I guess we're gonna talk about that ending. Alright, so the story is amazing. But then again, if you know the story of Final Fantasy VII, you know the story of this game. But the fact is that there's just so much more to it, and that's where it's amazing. The Final Fantasy VII Remake project, that is this 3-game series. Well, I hope it's a 3-game series. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a 3-game series. If they end up making it into 4, it'd be kind of ridiculous. But, I mean, I'd be here for it. But it'd be still kind of ridiculous. I definitely see enough content for making another game, but I don't see enough content for making a 4th game. They already passed right over the death of Aerith. Yes, we got to the death of Aerith. And it was awesome. Although a little rushed at the end, but I'll get there. And there definitely isn't enough content for a 4th game. There's enough content for a 3rd game, but not enough for a 4th game, in my opinion. But anyway, so yes, the story. The story is just beautiful. Oh, it's amazing. And to go along with that, like I'm going to talk about the things they put in this game, how they changed things to go along with the new story, and how they altered the world. Like, oh, it's just awesome. I love it. There's just so much to say about this game. I'm going to try not to make this video an hour long, but whatever. Let's keep it up. So, this game is just beautiful. The story is just awesome. Like I said, I'm not going to go crazy in depth, spoiler craziness, but if you know the story of 7, it follows the same basic story. There are beats that are obviously different, and there are beats that are given more depth, but it follows the same basic story. Now, where it gives more depth is the areas like Calm has more interesting things to do with it. The Chobo Ranch is just, oh my god, explored so much more. Like in the original game, Bill's Ranch was just Bill's Ranch. It was just the only Chocobo Ranch that existed, and it was where you got chocobos. It was where you got the first chocobo lure materia, where you learned how to get chocobos, where you could buy the chocobo things, where you could take care of all your chocobos. So, yeah. Now there's a whole franchise of chocobo ranches all over the world, and not only that, but it has its own plot line, its own storyline where you have to help Billy out and have him, help him out in the races and everything. Like, it's just, the world was expanded on in such an immense and beautiful way. It's amazing. And I mean, the whole world was expanded on like this. That's why the game is so much bigger, and that's why the remake was so much bigger. Everything is expanded on. It's such a level. It's amazing. So, where to even start? The story is just good. Let's just I don't even know where to start. Like I said, so yeah, you go out of Midgar and you're in Calm. The first thing you do is you have the whole Nibelheim. Oh, okay. The first thing you do is you set off with Zack, which that whole Zack thing. Oh my god, the whole Zack thing leading you through the altered world events is just mind-boggling and awesome all at the same time. But we'll get to that at its own time. But yeah, the first thing you do is start off with Zack, and he's trying to save Aerith. And he does. He saves Aerith and Cloud, but then again, they're not really saved because it's not really them, and they're in an altered world, and something is going on with that. And I'm not entirely sure what that is yet. But I hope it's to be more explained in number 3, and I've got theories on it. So we'll see where that goes. So let's talk about those theories and let's talk about those areas. Well, yeah, I think that, let's actually just dive more into what happens with Zack. Let's dive more into that story. The basic story you kind of know if you already know 7. They go to Calm, they go to Junon, they go to Costa del Sol. It's pretty much the same thing. There's little things here and there, but I mean, like, it's the same. Basically, there's a lot more depth to it, but it's the same. But now, anyway, so. Yes, let's talk about that. Talk about all those Zack parts and the theories there. So yes, the next thing with Zack kind of just goes off on this interesting plot line of Zack trying to heal Aerith and heal Cloud and just take care of them, and then he tries to find Biggs, and we see that Marlene's also in the world. So it's not just like dead people or things like that. It's literally an altered reality, or I shouldn't say altered. I should say it's a separate reality where Zack happened to live. It's a separate reality where Biggs happened to live. It's just a separate reality. It's not exactly like a world of the dead or something because Marlene's there. Also, I don't entirely like how it doesn't make sense. And I think that's a problem with me in my head and a problem with the writing of it. I honestly wish they did something different with it because I feel like they could have made it more awesome and more epic. But anyway, I'll come back to that in a minute. So then yeah, let's say Cloud. Zack is taking care of them, and we continue from there. And he now has the decision to go to help Cloud wake up by going to see Hojo or save Biggs from dying from another reactor. Or just take care of Aerith and make sure she doesn't leave or wake up without him. So, all of that, I think it's weird because I also think it's really weird what they do in that sequence where they kind of show Zack, yes, going to save Cloud. yes, going to save Biggs, and yes, trying to figure out if he wants to save Aerith or which one he wants to do. It kind of really, really hits the nail on the head and tries to drive it home that this is a separate reality with separate choices, and all the realities exist with all the choices. It really tries to drive that home. I don't think it needs to. It honestly doesn't need to. Multiverse theory is ridiculously well known these days, and it's ridiculously in the media. I don't think it needed to drive it home so hard. I think that picking one scenario would have been fine. Having him pick, saving Cloud, having him pick this one, and just kind of sticking with it and seeing where the game goes from there would have been fine. But they had to do like multiples and like, what if he chose this? What if he chose that? What if he chose this? And it's just like, it didn't need that. It really didn't need that, in my opinion. Obviously, the one that functions with our timeline is him trying to figure out which choice he should pick. That's when he sees Sephiroth come in, and he gets blopped into the other world, and now becomes part of the fight and all that stuff. So anyway, yes. Then he's sitting there on the steps trying to figure out what he's going to do. And Sephiroth comes in and he tries to fight Sephiroth, and Sephiroth's like, no, it's not you. It's not you that I'm fighting. So he basically slashes at him, but he does the whole, air blade beam slash thing. And Zack kind of just gets pushed into the other realities, or into the space between realities. And then he gets able to join our main reality with Cloud, and they get to an awesome fight where they team up against Sephiroth. And I was saying this from the beginning, from the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake. I was saying, yo, because Zack's alive, or Zack's at least there in some capacity, they're gonna have a Zack teaming up with Cloud fight against Sephiroth. And I was right. I called it. Thankfully, I called it. I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. They weren't going to tease that without it actually happening. They were going to just tease that and not have it pay off for the fans. It was awesome. It was an awesome fight. Getting to use both of them, getting to see their moves go together. The one thing I really don't like is that they gave Zack the limit break of Rush Assault. I feel like that's just the weakest thing they could have given him. I feel like they should have just done High Braver as his limit break, or I don't know, something else. One of the other moves he used in Crisis Core, because Rush Assault is cool, but I mean, like, I don't know, it seems so basic considering what Zack does and the kind of person he is and the things the accomplishments he has. Just putting his sword back on his back and taking his fists and just punching the guy a bunch of times with like a punching blitz. It just seems kind of wasted, but whatever. Anyway, that fight was awesome. And switching back and forth between them was really cool. And the whole idea was just badass. I loved it. It was really cool. And what else? And then, the whole thing with that. Oh, and the awesome, scene where they get separated. And Zack now is, reaching back up the Cloud and, save her. But it mimics the scene in Advent Children where Cloud goes into the attack from Bahamut, and you see Zack's hand reach out from the live stream and give Cloud a pull or a push, I guess. He gives him a push in the essence of phrasing, but he pulls him up. But yeah, it mimicked that whole scene, and it was awesome. So I think that the callbacks on that were just beautiful, and the whole game is just beautiful in that manner. The story is just really, really well worked out, and now we're in the idea that Cloud did create another separate reality where now Aerith lives, and yeah, you kind of save Aerith. Aerith lives, but only he can see the reality, or only he's aware of it, and Cloud's in both realities at the same time. It's weird. Cloud is existing in both realities, where he can see Aerith, he can talk to her, he saved her, but the rest of the team thinks she's dead, or believes that she's dead because she did die. She died in their world, but in his world she didn't die. And it's weird that he's between worlds like this. It's really, really interesting, and I'm really curious of where they're going to take this. But anyway, here's the gripe. Here's one of my first gripes about this game. The story doesn't make sense. The Zack part of it doesn't make sense because it immediately refutes the whole Cloud factor. they're saying, oh, the Sector 7, the plate fell and all these things happened. An avalanche is on the loose. And, Aerith was taken. And Zack immediately goes to go save Aerith. But Zack is holding Cloud. And Cloud is in his coma. And Cloud just arrived with Zack into Midgar because Zack was carrying him. Those events couldn't have taken place if Cloud wasn't there. So that separate reality doesn't actually make any sense. It actually tears itself down because of that, because all those events wouldn't have taken place if Cloud wasn't there to put them in motion. So it doesn't really make any sense. It kind of just breaks its own reality and breaks its own world, which kind of makes it like, yes, it's kind of a world of the dead or kind of a world like the Mistaken or something, but it's not a separate reality entirely because the reality doesn't make any sense. Because Cloud would have had to be there to make those events happen, but he wasn't there to make those events happen, so those events wouldn't have happened. And also, everybody remembers Cloud. Marlene remembers Cloud. Biggs remembers Cloud. Elmira, that's her name. Elmira remembers Cloud. Everybody remembers Cloud doing these things, but Cloud couldn't have been there because he was with Zack. It messes itself up. It messes itself up quite heavily, and it tries to use that. It tries to use that to give you like hints to what's going on in the world, but it also kind of breaks its own reality. It doesn't function well. I don't like that. I don't like when things do that. They should have just had it try to function better or try to figure things out. Where like people should have questioned more. Wait, why is Cloud in this coma? Wait, Cloud was with you. Are there two Clouds? It should have come up more. It should have been a more pressing matter. It should have been. It breaks itself too much. That's why I would have really preferred if Zack was just pushed back into the world and he was actually just alive. And if for some reason he was off doing something during the events of Remake, and now he's just trying to rejoin the group and trying to save Aerith and all these things. So that would have made a lot more sense, but whatever. And then we get into the points where they change the game. I want to talk about the changes. I want to talk about Gongaga. Gongaga is one of the most beautiful changes I've ever seen, and I think it's amazing. Gongaga in the original game was just Zack's village. It was this small little village that Zack lived in, and it had a reactor in it that blew up. That was it. That was the entirety of the storyline. But now Gongaga isn't just a village. It's a region, and it is the jungle that was next to Cosmo Canyon. If you played the original game, there is a secret dungeon that is a jungle next to Cosmo Canyon where you find the Titan? Is it Titan? No, it's Typhoon, where you find the Typhoon summon materia, and you do a whole lot of other things. But you need a chocobo to get there, because you need to climb the mountain to get there. Or you need to wait till the end game, because you can actually just access the end game. Anyway, point of the matter is, yes, that little dungeon became the whole Gongaga region. And I think it's awesome. I didn't like it that much. It was kind of confusing, and it was kind of tedious to walk around in. It took a while to do. It wasn't terribly confusing. It just took a while to walk around in, and it took a while to process and to just do things in it. Running from one place to one place took a little while. Anyway, but it was genius to do that though, because they took this little dungeon that they didn't have to include this little dungeon. They just straight up didn't have to, but they took it and they made it into a whole region to not only bring it back, but to make it into a whole region. That's just awesome. I love that. That's such a cool thing. It's such a cool idea. And it worked really well, and it's cool. It's really cool. I love that. And I was sad that how they screwed with Fort Condor, though. Fort Condor, they basically took it off the map, and it's not a place, and it's not a thing anymore. All it is that you can see the Condor in the distance, and you can interact with the Condor a little bit through some missions, and the Fort Condor minigame is back, but we'll talk about that in the mechanics. We'll talk about it in the gameplay. We'll talk about that in minigames. And, I wasn't terribly fond of what they did to Juno in story. But it's okay. It works out. And let's see, where to go from there. The story of Ghost Saucer is beautiful. It's awesome. It's great. The story of Cosmo Canyon is awesome. I think they did awesome job with Cosmo Canyon's region. The story is awesome. It's great. I loved. Oh, there we go. The Gi. Oh my God. The whole Gi explanation was beautiful. They expanded so much more on Nanaki's trial. Oh, and I loved how Nanaki changed his voice. I love how I never really questioned the whole Red 13 deep, man voice, that he was this deep philosophical creature. I never questioned that. He had that voice in Advent Children. And it made sense when they brought him into the 7 remake, and he had the same voice. And he is this like deep philosophical creature that talks about these deep things. He is like 70 years old after all. Granted, that's different in his time than it is in human time. So he's still technically a teenager in their like timeline, or in his race's growth rate. But that is a long time to exist. So it does kind of make sense that he could be philosophical and could have these thoughts and ideas and a way of looking at the world. So it made sense. But then just seeing him shift into this teenager where he had a high voice and was just like, "Hey guys." Oh man, that was beautiful. It was so well done. It was so it was beautiful. It was a perfect place to put that in. It jarred me, but it was a perfect kind of jarring. I didn't expect it. I didn't see it coming, and it fit perfectly. Oh man, it was awesome. It was awesome, and it was well addressed, and it was beautiful. It was just good. It was good. And the expansion on Nanaki's whole storyline, and the consideration of the Gi storyline. We actually got to learn about the Gi. It was awesome, because the Gi were just this thing that you fought in the original game. The original, you just fought the Gi. They were just there. They were just a thing that Nanaki had to fight. They were just part of the trial. You didn't learn about their history. You didn't learn about what they did. That was really cool that we got to actually learn about them now and see the village and just experience more of what was going on in there. Oh, it was awesome. It was really good. I really enjoyed that. And then to continue from there, the whole what's next? We covered Gold Saucer. Oh, Nibble, of course, Nibble. Oh, I loved the story of Nibble. What they did with Nibble, how they actually just straight up tell you, oh, Shinra rebuilt it. It's a Shinra village now that takes care of these black-robed individuals. That's just awesome. Because the original, it was more like an assumption. All of the fans kind of just assumed that Shinra rebuilt the village, and it was never really outright said. But it was also one of those points where you use it to doubt Cloud and doubt his memories and all these things. But also Tifa remembered it, so I mean, like, it's weird. But I really do enjoy how they just outright said it. They just came out right out and said, "Oh, Shinra rebuilt this. We rebuilt the village. It's Shinra village now. We take care of these black girl people." That was really good. So I liked how that cleared it up, made it really easy to process, made it just flow better. And then the plot line grew from there. I did not like the mansion. I don't like what they did to the mansion. The mansion pissed me off. It pissed me off rightfully. I don't like how the mansion was made into this gigantic dungeon for Kate Sith. First of all, I didn't like controlling Kate Sith. I hate Kate Sith. And his combat did not get better in this game. I hate Kate Sith. And I don't like the dungeon that they did for that. And to continue that, I also just don't like how things functioned in the mansion. In the mansion, the original mansion, you got to explore the mansion. It was cool. It had a second floor. There was a safe in it. I did like how the safe numbers reappeared. That was really cool. I'll get back to that in like a minute. But anyway, I don't like how the second floor was demolished and you couldn't go to it. And I don't like how the elevator was placed in the Shinra Mansion because it didn't make any sense. You walk into the Shinra Mansion, there's an elevator that goes down, and you're now in the Shinra laboratory. But Cloud says, "Oh, there was a hidden elevator here. I never knew this place had a basement." And Tifa's like, "I never knew either." How did you never know? It's literally right there. There's a fucking door. Oh, I'm sorry. I should be swearing too much. But anyway, there's a door. There's literally a door. It's right there. The elevator is right there. Unless maybe that painting was covering it, but I mean, like, that's an assumption. And it's a big assumption. The point here is that door is just sitting there. In the original game, the door was hidden in a bedroom, and in the Crisis Core, it was also hidden in a bedroom. And I don't like how it messes up the timeline on this now, because it messes up the Crisis Core connection. Because the door was hidden in the bedroom, and you had to find it, and you had to like move a book for it to appear itself. That makes sense. That's how you make a hidden door. The door doesn't just sit there in the middle of the room.
It was dumb. It was really dumb. But whatever. I guess they really just wanted to expand the mansion's basement and not expand the mansion itself. So it just that's what they chose to do. Whatever. I think it was a bad choice. I think it was dumb, but that's what happened. Anyway, that's another point where the game kind of breaks its own realities. Anyway, so now we get to the point where I'm sad that Vincent and Sid were guest characters. I'm sad they were guest characters in the way that they were guest characters. When we got Nanaki, I'm just going to call him Nanaki. I like calling him Red too, but I mean, his name is Nanaki. I just like calling him Nanaki. When we got Nanaki in Remake, he joined the party. You couldn't mess with his materia, you couldn't take control of him, just like how you got Sonon in Intermission. But he was still part of the party. Vincent doesn't actually join your party. You fight him as a boss, which is interesting. I like that. It was cool. But he doesn't join your party. Not even as a guest. He just walks around with you in cutscenes. Same with Sid. He just walks around with you in cutscenes. He doesn't actually join your party. I would have liked to see some of their combat, to see them join you in combat a little bit, even just as guest characters, even just for that final dungeon, or just for a little bit, or just for the Shinra Mansion dungeon. He could have just joined you a little bit there, instead of having to rely on Caseness so much. But they didn't do that. They didn't do any of that, and it kind of bothered me. I would have thought it would have been cool. I think it would have been nice. But we didn't see them at all. Which, I get it. We'll see them coming forward in part 3, but yeah, I would have liked it. I would have liked to actually see some of their combat, see some of their things, rather than just have them literally be a side character, only in cutscenes. But whatever. I'm also really looking forward to seeing how they work Vincent, because Vincent's limb break is the worst limb break in the game, in my opinion. The original game, I think Vincent's limb break is the worst, because you lose control of him. It's cool. Don't get me wrong. It's cool. But you lose control of him. And it doesn't end until he dies. So losing control of a character in any fight is just hazardous to all of your health. Because now they can't use items, they can't use magic, they can't use summons, they can't use anything. I can't tell you how many times I was saved because of Mimic summons. Oh, I hope Mimic comes back. Mimic summons, Phoenix Downs, all of these things. But once Vincent's in that limb break form, he can't do anything besides just Berserk attack or Berserk skill. And that's just hazardous to all of your health. So anyway, I'm really curious of how they're going to make his gameplay. But to continue, I think that's enough of the story. I think that's enough. No, I want to talk about the temple. The temple. Oh, the temple's awesome. The temple's just really cool. I like how they fixed the temple. I like how they adjust the temple. The temple is just awesome. Because originally the temple was good. It was a good temple. But it wasn't that interesting. It was just a dungeon, and I didn't like the ending scene. Was kind of weird with like Kaseth having to do this like Rubik's Cube puzzle, and it was kind of awkward. It made a lot more sense this time, although it was really big. It was really, really big. It was too big in my opinion, but it was cool. It was a really cool dungeon, but it was really big. But I guess it makes sense because it was the final dungeon of the game, so they wanted to give you a nice big dungeon to lead up to the final boss. It's cool. But anyway, yeah, that the whole changing gravity, that was awesome. I got lost a little bit, but it was awesome. And I also loved how they brought the time room back. I was thinking like, oh, the time room is not coming back, or it didn't come back. Then all of a sudden at the end of the dungeon, the room where everybody goes into the trials, if you look, the thing that the circular like pedestal that Cloud's, or not pedestal, the circular area that Cloud is standing on that turns around and around and around, that has clock hands in it. So yes, they brought the clock room back. It's still there. Oh, it was really cool. I loved how they managed to fit it in there. The amount of things they just fit in were really good. Oh, that's what I want to talk about Gold Saucer. I forgot about this. The tubes, the flippin' tubes. The tubes in the original Gold Saucer were just doors that you need to. As far as my knowledge goes, at least as far as I would think about it, I don't know what the game development things are going on with, but the tubes in the original were basically just doors to go through to reach the next area. Let the game have a loading screen because all the backgrounds were art that was pre-rendered and pre-drawn, and hand-drawn art that was beautiful looking, and the characters were polygons moving on top of it. So the tubes were basically just doors that we could use. They didn't have to come back. The game could have just given you actual doors, or could have just led one area of the park into the next with like stairs and stuff. But no, they brought the tubes back, and the tubes are like basically like walking escalators. And it's the little things like that that just are so beautiful in this game that they just decided to not only bring the tubes in, but make them walking escalators, make them a part of the functioning world, and explain them and make them make sense. Oh, I love that. I love everything about that because that just showcases how much they're willing to put into this game and all the things they can expand on. It's awesome. I love it. So I'm gonna end this talk about the story there, and like if the story changes and how the dungeons worked out. So I'm gonna go into gameplay. And most of my talking about gameplay is going to talk about the mini games and how I'm very dissatisfied with the mini games and very angry at some of that. So the gameplay is basically the same. The gameplay is basically the same with I do want to say this before I get into gameplay. I want to say there are 3. I said one earlier, which is the fact that the storyline breaks itself. I think there are three things I dislike about this game. I don't want to say hate because I love this game too much to hate parts of it. I want to say that I dislike these parts. And the 3 parts I dislike are the ridiculous amounts of minigames that are unnecessary and annoying and frustrating and just, unnecessary. Secondly, the fact that the weapons are not cool, not available in all. The whole you could be everything, but you can't be. But you could be anything, and you can also be everything all at the same time. I hate that. It's garbage. It's stupid. We'll get to that in a minute. But yes, I hate the weapons in this game. And the weapons, the other weapons, the big materia monsters. I'll come back to that in half a second. But I also hate that the story broke itself. Those are the 3 points. And I guess it's a 4th point because I hate the weapons. Emerald weapon was so cool looking. Ruby weapon was so cool looking. Ultimate weapon was so cool looking. Diamond weapon was so cool looking. They made the weapons look stupid. They're these giant whales with materia in their bellies. I mean, they look more organic, which makes more sense, but they don't look cool. And there's 2 of them, so does that mean that all the weapons just look like this? That's just not cool. They could have at least done like, this is the new Emerald because he has the green materia and it represents green materia, and Ruby would be the representing summoning materia, so he has a red materia in his belly, and Diamond could have the blue, I guess, and be representing support materia. Blue is support, right? Yeah, no, purple support. What is blue called again? Assist materia? Assist materia. And then we could have had Ultimate be the support materia representing, and we have Command. They could make a new weapon for Command. They could make a new one. That would have been cool. That would have been a cool way to work it. It would have been a good way to make it function at least. And I would have accepted that. But they just had 2 whales that looked pretty much exactly the same. But I couldn't even tell were 2 different whales at first. And they just looked silly. They both had green materia. And I just didn't like them. I didn't like them at all. I loved Emerald Weapon. Emerald Weapon was a big part of the game for me in the original game. It was a big part of the game. I don't know if anybody else felt this, but I was a dumb, stupid child. When I played the original game and I got far enough to have Emerald Weapon in the ocean beneath me, I was terrified of using my gold chocobo over the ocean. I was terrified of driving the high wind too close to the ocean. I just, for some reason, my tiny child brain believed that Emerald could leap out of the ocean and grab me and pull me down into a boss battle. I had nightmares about it. And honestly, even though that isn't a thing, now as an adult, I know that that's not how that works. The Emerald Weapon could not have just jumped up and taken me. But it was a fear I had as a child. It was an honest-to-God fear. I had nightmares about it. It was a thing. But I will tell you right now, that before I saw the weapons, actually no, after I had already seen the weapons, but even having seen the weapons, I still got that fear. I still got a little bit. There was still a fluttering of my heart when I was driving the tiny Bronco across the sea, the inland sea. Is it inland sea? No, across the sea. And just thinking to myself, what if one of those emeralds just came up and grabbed me, like one of the weapons, because they were still in the water, kind of. So yeah, I still had that flutter in my heart. I still had it there. I'm just so sad what they did with the weapons. They just look silly. Sadness.
But yeah, I also loved how they incorporated the tiny Bronco, making it so that we can drive it in the ocean. That's awesome. That they expanded the world so much. It's such an open world. It's beautiful. But then not only that, like when you were being flown around by Sid, you could kind of move the tiny Bronco during the flight moments, which I mean didn't do anything. It didn't change your path, but it was cool. It was a nice little feature. It just existed. It was cool. And just them being able to actually drive it in the ocean and actually being able to I thought it was just going to be fast travel. I thought it was just going to be fast travel, but for it to actually literally be its own region that you get to drive around in. Oh my god, this game is beautiful, and the way they expanded on it, the way they made the world map. This is the first time since they've gotten rid of world maps that they actually brought the world map back, and it functions as both a world map and an actual world to still play in. That's not a world map. Because if you played old JRPGs, the world map is just like the world map. You're just out there and you get into random fights and you go back to villages, you go back to dungeons. But no, the world map is actually a functioning place in the game, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But that's diving more into gameplay, and that's what we're diving into now, gameplay. So, yes, I love the world map. I love the way it functions. It's beautiful. I love how they made the world map awesome. It's just awesome. The game is open world without actually being fully open world. It's more like open zones, which is kind of the thing from Sonic, but it feels more like open zones because they treat them as different regions, different zones. The whole world isn't one flowing world all in itself. You have to go through like fast travel different zones. Although you can just walk from one zone to the other, but the game still treats it as different zones, and I feel like that's part of the processing power and part of the whole like functioning. So I feel like I want to call it more open zoned or open region rather than open world. But anyway, yes. And the combat feels pretty much exactly the same. There are a few different things in it. There's the whole team attacks team attacks and all that. The team attacks are really cool. I like them. And there's some different elements to the combat, but it's mostly the same, which is fine because the combat was beautiful and that didn't really need much expanding on. It was already awesome and the best combat they've ever had in any Final Fantasy game ever. I love turn-based RPGs, but I also love how they made a real-time combat system into 7 and still made it feel like a turn-based RPG game and still made it feel like an awesome mix between turn-based and real-time that works and flows beautifully. I don't know why they changed it for 16, but I guess it's probably because different teams, different engines. But yeah, I don't know why they changed it. But anyway, I feel like they were trying for years and years to achieve this system, and they finally achieved it. And I think for Final Fantasy 17, which is probably eventually coming, it's coming, I hope they just continue to use this system, as well as obviously Remake 3, or Remake Part 3. So anyway, yes, the gameplay just feels good. I didn't like how Cloud could fly. He can basically fly. I didn't like that. I also didn't like how Yuffie can basically fly. It's cool, and it lets you use them as aerial characters and lets you attack aerial enemies, which functions. It's nice, but it doesn't make any sense, and it also kind of eliminates the whole idea of switching characters. Like, I can just have Cloud be in control forever and just have him own the field pretty much the entire game and never have to switch to Barret. Granted, I haven't done hard mode yet, but I'm going to do hard mode. And I know from my original run of Remake 1, hard mode didn't change that much. I had to change some strategies for some late game bosses, but honestly, I mostly just brute force the hard mode, which I'm betting you can still do in this one too. It's probably only going to be some late game bosses that you're really going to have to strategize for. But anyway, point of the matter I'm getting at is I would have liked if Cloud still couldn't, basically fly. I would have liked to have to change to Barret, to have to change to Aerith, to have to change to Yuffie, to use their different skills and to use their range differently, and to actually have a balanced party and use different things correctly. We're going to go right into this right now, right here. I hate what they did with the party's weapons. I didn't like it in a remake, but it wasn't as much of a problem in a remake. I really don't like it in a Rebirth, and it's a big problem in a Rebirth. The weapons are dumb. Characters are characters. Cloud is your heavy attacker. He should be your heavy attacker. He should not be your tank
Or I guess he could kind of tank some things, maybe, sure, whatever. But he should not be your tank. He should not be your caster. He should not be your critical boy. He should be the heavy attacker. And I want him built like that. And I want his weapons to be built like that. I don't, sure, give him one weapon that you can use as a caster weapon. Don't give him 5. Seriously, it's stupid. Same thing with Tifa. She's a support combat. She should be a support combat character. She should be speedy. She should be more DPS. Her hits technically do less damage, but she does more hits faster. She's a DPS character. That's how she should function. Barrett is a long-range character. He should just have. He should be a mage. He's originally in the original game spec'd out to be more of a mage, and he can also be spec'd out in this game more of a mage. But the biggest thing is a tank. He has the highest defense in the party. He has the most health. He is your tank. To continue, Yuffie, she's your critical boy. Well, she's a girl, but she's your critical character. Aerith, she's your main caster. Kaseth, he's terrible. I hate him. He belongs in the garbage. Okay, I actually don't know what Kaseth is. I think he's also supposed to be a tank. But, like, I hate Kaseth. I don't like him. So I'm just going to refer to him as garbage. So, but they did it right in the game. They made it so that in different parts of the game, your party got split up and you had to use different characters. You were forced to use different parties, forced to use different combinations of parties, and got to experiment with different characters. That's good. That's what you're supposed to do, because characters have different abilities. You want to switch them out. But that does not mean you need to make every character be able to do everything. Cloud should not be able to be a caster. Aerith basically still can't be a physical attacker. I don't know. They tried to do with everybody else that everybody can also be a caster and be a physical attacker and be a tank and be a critical, but they didn't do that with Aerith really. She basically still can only be a caster. All of her weapons are basically still just casting. Anyway, but Yuffie can also be a caster. She's also a critical character. Barrett can also be an attacker. He's also be a critical character. He can also be an attacker. It's so silly. It's so silly. Tifa can also be a caster. It's so dumb. There are so many cool looking weapons that actually appear on the characters. They actually hold them. One of the coolest things about more recent RPGs is that more recent RPGs are doing the thing where you can actually see the weapons on screen. I get a new sword, I can see it, and it looks really cool. I don't just get an art in my menu where I can just see the art, but I can't actually see it in gameplay. That's so cool. I want to see these weapons. I want to use them. They're really cool looking, but I can't because my Cloud is a combat character, and like 90% of his weapons are not combat weapons. They're casting weapons, or they're this weapon. So I only get to use them to obtain the skill, and that's it. I throw them into the garbage after that because I don't touch them because my Cloud's not a caster. I hate that. And I can't speak enough about how much I hate that because I wanted to actually use these cool swords, go up in scaling, use them, make them look, have a cool idea. Oh, I want to use this cool crystal sword. It looks freaking cool. I want to use this sword that's basically a gunblade. It looks really cool. I want to use this sword. I want to use that sword. You know what I used? I used the sleek saber for like 90% of the game. You get the Buster Sword, obviously. It's the beginning weapon. Then you get the sleek saber in like Calm or like in the next area, and I used it for like the entire game until I got the one that looks like a freaking I honestly forget its name, but the one that looks like it's a claw from an animal. That sword, it looks really cool. I like it, but I used the sleek saber until I got that sword. That sword is Nibelheim. Nibelheim, for Christ's sake. I used that sword for 90% of the game. It's stupid. There are so many other swords that I got. Same with Barrett. I used his sniper rifle thingy, his heavy rifle one, for like 90% of the game until I got the Fafnir. It's so dumb. For Tifa, I used her Kaiser Knuckles pretty much the entire game. It's so dumb. I want to see and use the other weapons, but I don't because they're garbage. They're not spec'd the way I want them to be, and I'm not going to change my team like that. I know how these characters function. I hate the idea that the characters need to be able to do everything. It's stupid. So stupid. Anyway, that's enough of a rant on that. So, mini games. And then we're gonna end up with the mini games. And I'm gonna wrap this up because it's getting long. We're already past 40 minutes. So a lot of the mini games are cool. Let me start off with that. A lot of the mini games are cool. A lot of the returning mini games are cool. Like what I mean by returning is the ones that were in the original game. The Chocobo Racing, the Fort Condor, the 3D Brawler, the G-Bike, the Moogle. Let's see, what was in the original game? G-Bike. Snowboarding doesn't exist yet. Moogle, 3D Brawler, Fort Condor. What else was there? I know there was more. I counted them before. I counted them in my head earlier, and I thought of like 7. I forget now. But yeah, there were mini games in the original, and the returning ones are good. Well, I don't like 3D Brawler. I think it's really stupid, but they're good enough. But the other mini games are just stupid, so stupid, so stupid. Chocobo Racing is awesome. I love it. It's amazing. Fort Condor is okay. I don't like how they changed it. In Intermission, it was beautiful. It was basically the card game, and it was cool how you get to change your tactics and pick your loadouts and RTS it, and it was really cool. It was a fun like kind of like chess RTS game you get to play with people. It was really cool. In Rebirth, you get to pick balanced, defense, or attack, and just brute force it. And luck. That's it. I hate that. It's stupid. Where was my deck building? Where was my actual... Well, that was in Queen's Blood. But, yeah, it was stupid. It was completely and utterly stupid. I hated it. I hated it so much. I hated what they did to it. I don't hate the actual Fort Condor in general. The Fort Condor was okay. I hated what they did to it. And I don't want to do it on hard mode. Because I basically had to brute force it and luck it. Anyway, Queen's Gambit's amazing. I love Queen's Gambit. It's awesome. I love it so much. It's a great, awesome addition to the game. It's beautiful. And then 3D Brawler, it was cool for like the first time. Then it was stupid. I'm sorry, but I don't like the idea that there's a fighting game. There's air quotes because it's not a real fighting game. There's a fighting game where you fight people. Air quotes again because you don't actually fight people. But that the entire game revolves around you waiting until the person goes, hey, hit me right here, okay? Hit me now, right here on the side, okay? That's so stupid. It's so stupid. It's just utterly stupid. It works for the idea of playing against NPCs. It works for the idea of making the player memorize patterns. I get it, but it's stupid. It's just a waiting game, and it doesn't make sense in the world because if this world had actual fighting game that ran like this, no one would tell you, hey, hit me right here, hit me now, I'm open. No one would say that. Who's going to let you hit them? It's stupid. You should have actually just gone back to the rock, paper, scissors format of the original game, or just, the submarine. The submarine was the original game. But, yeah, that's also one of them. But it also doesn't exist yet. And then the Fort Condor too. But anyway, yeah, it's just dumb. The 3D Brawler is just dumb. It shouldn't have been a waiting game. It just should not have been a waiting game. I don't know what else they could have done with it. I honestly don't know. But they should not have been a waiting game. It just shouldn't have been. So, then yes, G-Bike. G-Bike's awesome. It's amazing. It's cool. I love it. Now, 3D Brawler, I'm not saying that because I'm bad at it. I used a guide. I finished it. I finished 3D Brawler. It's fine. It functions. I understand it. I just don't like it. Then to continue, we have the space shooter. That's what there was. The rail shooter. There was a rail shooter in the original game. Yes, the rail shooter. The rail shooter is awesome. Again, they improved it awesomely. It's so cool. I love it. I love how they improved on it. It's cool. And then from there, what else was there? The piano. The piano's cool. It didn't need to be there. I'm not good at rhythm games. I'm not going to say it's bad. I'm just not good at rhythm games. It's cool. I like it. It's a great addition to the game, just like Queen's Blood. I like Queen's Blood more because I like it. But it's a great addition to the game. Getting to actually play the piano is cool. But then we get into the mini games that are really just stupid and unnecessary. Gears and Gambits. It's dumb. It's dumb. 100% dumb. Why does it exist? It's just filler. It's dumb. I'm sorry. It's dumb. We get into the mushroom mini game. Pulling a mushroom out. Dumb. Dumb. It's a fetch quest. Why does it have this mini game attached to it? Dumb. It frustrates me. The Proto Relic quest for that with the goblins. Why is Aerith fighting them? She's not a combat character. It's dumb. She gets a whole build out for it. It's dumb. It's a dumb mini game. I hate it. And then we'll go into my wrap up because it's been a long video. Yeah, this has been going on for a while. So to wrap things up, I love Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And I could talk about it for hours, and I've talked about it for almost an hour. Probably going to be an hour almost anyway. But yeah, this game means a lot to me. It's amazing. And if you claim to be a Final Fantasy fan, you should be buying it and you should be playing it. It's utterly amazing. If you claim to be any kind of JRPG fan, you should buy it and you should play it. It's amazing. If you were born in the 80s and 90s, you should just buy it and play it because it's part of our history. Like, this game is just a big part of gaming history. And that's all there is to it. So, I do nothing but support this game and love this game. It's purely amazing. Definitely, highly recommend it. And I love it to death. And that's that.
Okay, well, that was my raw review. Thanks for listening, and if you liked it and want to hear more, you can like and subscribe. But I'll be back here regardless whether you like it or not, with more raw dog gaming reviews. See you next time. Bye-bye!